Welcome to the Power Hour with me, Gene. Do you want to be more productive and achieve your goals? Do you want to find your passion and live with purpose? Do you want to make a profit and enjoy your success? Then you need to listen to the Power Hour with me, Gene.
Certainly by now, you must be aware that poetry is all around us. It sways seamlessly day in and day out. It's woven into the fabric of all societies. Not to mention that it is also the way the universe talks to us. While math bonds us all together, scientifically, poetry, on the other hand, allows us to communicate and coexist. The most surprising notion is to think that poetry does not play a role into our history as a species. Think back to the first forms of communication. The ones that did it best used some form of poetry beyond normal speech. An extra layer, if you may, and that has not stopped today in the 21st century. There lies an immense and boundless potential in the power of poetry, or words as a matter of fact. Poetry is a magnificent art form that weaves emotions, imagery, and language into a tapestry of beauty. We can all agree that reading enhances and keeps the mind fit. So, if you have not read any good poems lately, here are 10 points that highlight the power of poetry and the magic of words. 1. Poetry is play. Poets play with language, connecting words in novel ways. The simple question, "What rhymes with this?" leads to discoveries and fresh ideas. Just as T.S. Eliot might have pondered rhymes for asparagus, poetry invites us to explore unexpected connections. Modern-day poets such as Slim Shady have found words that rhyme with orange. 2. Poetry is playful. Beyond rhyme, poetry is a playground for creativity. It encourages experimentation with rhythm, metaphor, and structure. Like a child building sandcastles, poets shape words into something beautiful and unique. Poetry structures are found in your favorite books and movies to add elegance to the dialogue, unbeknownst to the listener. 3. Poetry is music in language. The cadence of poetry mimics music. Whether it's the lilting flow of a sonnet or the staccato beat of free verse, poetry dances on the tongue and in the ears of the audience. It resonates with our inner melodies. Literally, like music being measured is called beats per minute. These beats match the human heart's rhythm. 4. Poetry teaches patience. Reading poetry requires slowing down, savoring each word. It's an antidote to our fast-paced world. Patience reveals hidden layers, the delicate petals of a rose unfolding. 5. Poetry helps us remember. Rhymes, rhythms, and vivid imagery stick in our minds. Lines from beloved poems become companions, echoing through time. They're mnemonic devices for the soul. 6. Poetry finds our inner voice. In the quiet spaces between lines, we discover our own whispers. Poetry invites introspection, allowing us to explore our feelings, fears, and dreams. 7. Poetry lets us share feelings. Positively, when basic words fail, poetry steps in. It expresses joy, grief, love, and longing. Through poems, we connect with others, saying what our hearts hold. 8. A love of poetry takes time to develop. Like a fine wine, appreciation for poetry matures. It's okay if some people are on the fence. We still encourage them to explore different styles, eras, and voices. Poetry grows on the soul. 9. Poetry transcends boundaries. It unites cultures, eras, and hearts. A haiku from Japan, a sonnet from England, or a ghazal from Persia all share the universal language of emotion. 10. The difference poetry makes. Whether it's a single line or an epic, poetry leaves its mark. It nudges us toward empathy, understanding, and beauty. As Robert Frost wrote, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." So, embrace the power of poetry And if you are a fan of this show, or you are curious or have already discovered the magic within poetry and its verses, share your thoughts with others. Let's hear what our host has to say about today's episode, the power of poetry and the beauty of words, on today's show, the Power Hour podcast with Mean Gene.
So welcome to today's episode. Real quick, my name is the incredible, the amazing Mean Gene. And welcome to our show, the Power Hour podcast with Mean Gene. So here we go. Today's episode is pretty interesting. It all started with the love of writing. I got to a point where I wrote so much, I had to share it with the world. I basically became my own little poet. And I took that skill, I increased it by just continuously writing. I became like a little master at the craft. It was the plan the whole time. So in life, you gotta be like confident and knowing exactly what you're doing, because when that time comes and you finally figured out what it is that you want to do, now you're able to just go all in and never give up. And just focus on it. And that's kind of where I am now. So that's why today's episode is called The Power of Poetry and the Beauty of Words. Like, I've loved words ever since I was a kid, ever since I learned to read. I'm a dual linguist. I know how to speak multiple languages, and I know a little bit of other languages as well, just the phrases and the words, because I just love the way words roll off the tongue. And I love writing stories. I love writing short stories. I love writing scripts. I just love writing. And come to find out that love of writing is embedded in a lot of the entertainment world's industries. Your favorite TV shows had to be written. Your favorite rap songs had to be written. Your favorite pop songs, country songs, any music that you could think of had to be written. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but what about the music with no words at all? Yes, instrumentals also have to be written. You got to think about the classical days. We still have music notes that allow you to write actually what the song is about and what instrument to be used. People who write music, to me, is like I'm very intrigued by them. I'm amazed by the talents that they have, because that talent is not going anywhere anytime soon. And that's one of the main reasons I have a love for poetry. I've always thought about it. And then when you start to dive a little bit deeper into it, you start to realize these people were on another level. They were trying their best to explain to everyone what was going on at the time. And now we're in the 21st century, and that has not even changed. The power of poetry is very persuasive and influential. And I think that's why I like being a writer. It's one of the greatest aspects of being a poet. You're able to use words to help influence the masses. And the better that you are at that, the more successful you become. So that's why, to me, I love poetry. And I hope you love it too, man. Because if you're on this show right now, that means you have like a little love for the way words get put together, the way we put music together, the way we put our stories together. These big studio heads, that's the reason they keep doing it. Because they got a love for it. And it all comes down to the love of the word, because there's so much beauty in it. It's so influential. These people love the way words flow together. I've been in love with words for the longest. I just never knew that there was a way for me to benefit from the love of the words. And now that I know, man, I can't stop. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, the Power Hour podcast with Mean Gene. The beauty of words and the power of poetry. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for tuning into the Power Hour with Mean Gene. You've been inspired and motivated by Mean Gene. You've gained wisdom and secrets from Mean Gene.